We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. We've got one of your favorite guests on, Abe, and I'm glad he came back because I've been watching his TikToks of late. And Abe, you've been absolutely giddy lately, which is kind of you've always been a happy guy, but you've had some periods of time where you're kind of feeling down about stuff. But you're giddy and giggling like a little girl,
Just like,
just like
today specifically, yes, because the past couple of weeks have been all about joy, right?
yeah,
And it's funny because the three of the words that I've been using since like the day Joe stepped aside was notice how I didn't say down.
yep,
um, was joy, this feeling of freedom that we had to fight for as opposed to democracy, and patriotic. So those kind of words have kind of really now melded into what we're seeing coming alive
yeah,
on,
yeah. It's
you
weird.
know,
Before we get too deep into this, I want to do. You have to excuse me. I've gotten a little bit of a cold here, and it just
oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
people
Everyone I know is sniffling on something.
and people would always tell me, "Well, if you got a cold, why are you doing the show?" All the time I was a traffic reporter and doing all the things. If you had a cold, you just fucking went in. There was nobody to back you up. So this isn't new to me. To do it when I have a cold, and I've kind of got a track record of doing this every day. So as soon as I don't do it one day, somebody's going to go, "What the fuck? Did he die?" Because I'm old enough. Who knows? Maybe I keeled over. But I want to remind folks that to keep Abe from roaming the streets, digging through trash cans, we want you to buy his book, Won't Be Silent. Right there. You can get it on Amazon. I've read the book or I listened to the audiobook because I'm lazy. Great book, fantastic book. And it sounds like last time you were on, one of our faithful followers actually took my advice and sounds to be pretty pleased with the
Yeah.
idea of buying the book.
She bought it. She loved it. She tracked me down through TikTok, and we're following each other now. It's like finding friends. The offshoot of this book has been the community, a new community that's cultivating, which is incredible. But yeah, so by all means, feel free. Won't Be Silent, either the audiobook or the book on Amazon. And yeah, but I just want to say one thing in terms of the giddy and the me and the whatever. I don't know if you got my Substack today, but it just happens to be exactly what you're talking about. So I just want to read you one paragraph,
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
I've been enjoying, as you can tell, I have been enjoying scrolling through social media, watching posts by so many young, enthusiastic people who are energized, galvanized, and electrified since Kamala Harris uh, became the official Democratic candidate for president. Not to mention the sheer exuberance from the rollout of America's Dad, Tim Walz. One starry eyed girl was cooing about how happy she felt that she hadn't for years to say she was a Democrat and a
Right.
patriot. And that is ultimately what I was just saying right away. For young people to sound like this would not have happened otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is the moment, this is the snapshot, and this is hopefully something that we can sustain because honey, this is honeymoon period for Kamala, and they're coming for her with knives.
Well, they are, but the thing about it is they're very bad at it. They try some pretty lame things, and Kamala's pretty substantial, and so is Tim Walz. They're trying to come at him with everything, but they really have nothing at all. I mean, there was a rally today in Arizona. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris was there. They packed a 20,000 person stadium. Donald Trump went to Montana to basically not so much to gain votes because they don't have a lot of electoral votes. He's winning Montana by 15 points anyway. I heard somebody talking about this. One of the main reasons he's going there is because John Tester, who is the senator his Republican buddy is running across, he's the incumbent. He's going after Ronnie Jackson, or as Donald Trump would say, Ronnie Johnson, because of some of his, being like called the Candy Man when he was in the White House, doling out drugs and stuff like that. So I think that Donald is there trying to cover his ass and trying to make sure his guy beats Tester because he doesn't want Tester to go any farther
But
digging into.
Wasn't Ronnie from Texas originally? Was he moved to Montana so he could run?
Um,
He
no,
must.
no, no. He's a representative in Texas now, but
Oh,
he was Donald Trump's doctor back in the day. You remember, he eats McDonald's,
drug
but he's got a superhero DNA. He could live to 200. That's the guy. He's
Yeah,
also the guy,
Ronnie the drug addict. Yeah, I
Ronnie
remember.
the drug addict, and doling out drugs. The only reason he went to Montana is because John Tester, the senator John Tester, is going after Ronnie Jackson. So he's trying to get Tester out of the job and get his guy to beat John Tester. So so the only reason he's going out and campaigning is for revenge or to be vindictive. Has it struck you strange that he's been kind of holed up in Mar-a-Lago and not really doing much?
Well, can we talk about the hold up moment from the other day?
Yeah,
Ah, were you watching it live by any chance?
I watched it. I caught it toward the second half, and then I went back and watched the first half too. And Old Soul, who's on the show all the time, she kept saying, and nobody would believe this. She's watching it, and she gets really emotional about stuff. She goes, "He just said this. What the fuck is happening?" And I go, "Just calm down, Old Soul. Just let him do what he does because he's just destroying himself."
That was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. It was the absolute worst thing he could do.
Well, he was snorting again, breathe the heavy breathing.
Yeah,
What I don't know what color that was that he painted it. He was like a grayish. I like to call it grayish. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
gray and beige,
yeah.
some
It
combination,
is.
and just the nonsense. But the fact remains that none of the media that were there were calling him out, and that is, at some point it just has to all either, yeah, because they're going to come. They don't go after him at all. They don't ask him the follow-up question,
No, no.
and they're going to attack even the Democratic media is going to torment.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get a pass. He gets a pass. Why?
Yeah, it's thankfully he was so disjointed, discombobulated that he looked foolish regardless of whether he got pushed back or not. And then
Right.
he goes to this whole debate thing. He wasn't going to do the debate, then everybody was calling him a pussy ass bitch. So now he's going to do the debate. And he says, in fact, I'll do 3 debates. And he said, we'll do the one on Fox, which he first started out trying to get her to do. And she said, I'm doing the one on the 10th. After that, we'll discuss future plans. And then he said, we'll do one after that on NBC. But you know that he wants to do the Fox one first because he thinks it's a safe place for him. As far as I'm concerned, whether she does it on Fox News or on some Nazi channel, she'll still kick his ass. But what he wants to do is do it on Fox and then blow off the other two. That's the game he's going to play. So she should stick to first one is the 10th on ABC. If you want to do it on Fox after that, cool. But to be perfectly honest, once he goes through one debate with Kamala, I guarantee he's not going to want to do another one.
I mean, I think he should. Actually think she should do one on Fox afterwards.
Afterwards, but not first.
Yeah, no, not definitely not first. She shouldn't give in. She owes him nothing. But Pete is so far just what about the only one in our party that goes on Fox, and I think we need more people just going there.
Yeah, yeah,
There's nothing to you have to be able to get into bed with these motherfuckers because otherwise they have something over you that you're afraid, and that's not true. And she's a seasoned professional, so I don't know. I'd like to see that happen again. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But just the fact that he was so psycho. It was just joyous. You
And
wonder why I'm walking around joyous? That.
it was like you were playing that Katrina and the Waves song,
it's
"Walking on Sunshine."
it's like I've been saying, I've said it a few times now. Everything is playing out like it's on a Stradivarius. You know what I mean?
It is, and it's kind of what I said before. I have I have no way to know what is ahead. Obviously, I didn't ever plan for all of what's happening now, but I've always said I feel like we're in a destiny universe. We've gone through all this shit, and now I thought Joe Biden would win, and then I know Kamala will win, and everything is just coming together, some synchronicity or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's because it's time. It's going to happen
Right.
this way. They talk about the honeymoon period. I'm not worried about the honeymoon period because next week we got the convention. Then after that, they've got the debate. Then after that, they've got the sentencing. I think we're good. I think we're going to keep this fucker
No, no. Then
moving.
don't forget, there's the October surprise,
Right? Any
which
any idea what you think
hopefully
that
the
might be?
October surprise is that he just explodes from too much, French
Yeah.
fries,
Yeah.
greasy food. But you know what I mean?
I brought this up before. Some people think the October surprise will be the actual information about the assassination attempt. Wouldn't that be weird? Because nobody's talking about it. And
Right.
a former president gets shot at. We should probably know all the facts, but we know nothing. One person says, yeah, he got shot. Other person says, we don't know if he got shot. There's no specifics given. And somebody suggested to me that the administration is just says, hold off on that a little bit. I'd be surprised if that really was the case. But, in this fucking day and age, in this climate, in government, there is nothing that we can say that's unexpected because the unexpected is exactly what we should expect.
Right. I have to say one thing that I said the minute he got shot, I did a post and said, there is no way this is real. This is all acted out. And what I said originally was Susie Wiles, his campaign manager, that he was touting before the event, before the RNC, was his secret weapon. And that struck in my mind. Why would he say secret weapon? And then lo and behold, he gets shot. And the first thing I said is, that was Susie's idea. That was definitely Susie's idea. She spearheaded it, and she's been since fired
Really? Well, there's somebody else that was
or
on the show.
sidelined. And that's what they were saying. He was like, he took his top two people and said, step away, I'm coming out. I'm doing this my way. And he did that thing at Mar-a-Lago.
Right, right. Well, yeah, exactly. And the thing is I had Ed on yesterday, and he suggested that this was probably a Roger Stone production, and that makes some sense too. That's the kind of crazy shit that motherfucker would do.
Well, I don't know if you saw that post I did. This is one of those posts that are not getting any views. But when I lived in New York City back and I had that website called ImeanWhat.com, where I would
Uh,
investigate all the things that I would be like, ImeanWhat.com, right? One of the things was Roger Stone was in cahoots with the madam. Her name was Kristen, whatever, Kristen something. She was the madam that got the hooker with the New York governor that had Elliot Spitzer. So
right,
she was
right.
the madam. So she got arrested for prostitution. Roger Stone bailed her out. She got out. She got arrested for selling narcotics. He bailed her out again. So Roger Stone has been in cahoots with her for a long time. Now, come to, she recently this week admitted that she's out of jail. She's now helping the RFK Jr. campaign, which means that Roger Stone must have a finger in there. So
Yeah.
today we find out that Joe, what's his name, the podcast guy, Joe
Joe
Rogan,
Rogan, yeah.
has backed away from supporting Trump, and he's committing out to go for RFK Jr. And one of the things Kristen said is that if Trump would make RFK commit now to the head of the Home and Health and what's the HHS, the Home and
Uh, Home and Health Services, or
something health services. If you make him the czar of HHS, he'll stop running. So something tells me that this is all hullabaloo.
yeah, no, I think you're probably right, and we can kind of tell that Donald Trump is flailing too. You brought this up about the press conference. This was put all together very quickly by Donald Trump without any input from the people around him. I understood the people, his advanced people, were someplace else, and he just did this on his own accord because of course, he's brilliant. He's a great orator, and he can pull this out. He's getting upset that Kamala and Tim Walz are
Yeah.
getting all this attention and all this money, and he thinks the only fix is that he can go up there and start ranting the same thing he's been ranting for fucking 8 years, and
But
people are getting bored with it.
a million people, like, shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah, yeah. He got as many he got as many people as MLK. Yeah, that I mean, he just says shit that puts so many people off, and he thinks he's winning here. It's just unbelievable.
And but the lies that he was saying, yeah, we're winning by margins, we're up 15%. No, no, no. That's not true, girl. I mean, he's just a beast.
Well,
A beast.
he comes out with that golden oldie too, that the Democrats are all about late term abortion and afterbirth abortion, which is just fucking silly. But he said something. He was talking about Tim Walz and how liberal he is. He goes, "Yeah, Tim Walz believes in that too." I can't wait for Tim Walz to respond to that comment that Donald Trump says he's pro late term abortion.
I
Um,
would like to say that I definitely want to throw out a bit of caution to the whole far left thing that they're going to throw at them because, you know, I get attacked in my inbox, especially on Instagram, by Trump supporters, but not the garden variety MAGA ones, but the more affluent kind of the Jews that like just think that Kamala and Tim are going to let every Islamist have free reign and that it's going to be like London and, and they're like finding all these articles and all these things. And, I just keep saying to them, she hasn't put out her platform yet.
right,
She
right.
shut down in Detroit. She shut down those pro-Palestine hecklers. You saw that,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And that's, that was after what I found out is that she had a meeting. Look, she's in Michigan. Should she meet with those people? Yeah, she's running for fucking president. Meet with them. So she had that meeting and they told her what they wanted. They gave her their list of demands, like, you know, fuck off.
Yeah,
And then they heckled her before she even could have the meeting because as she was in town for 5 minutes, gave him a few minutes, said, yeah, we'll sit down and talk about it. She didn't commit to an embargo of weapons, none of that. That's them, putting it in her mouth to make her look. It's the far right who are in cahoots with the far left against Kamala. You know that. You know
right,
that all the
right.
same thing with the people, the whisper campaign against Josh Shapiro. It's all this shit that the far right is working with the far left to take down Kamala, and it's not going to fly.
Not going to fly. The far left, when it came to this Gaza and Israel thing, I could see what the far left was doing. They were trying to pressure Joe Biden to do something right away and put this kind of pressure on him in terms of his campaigning and his election. But they're in kind of a different spot now because Joe
Yeah.
Biden's going to do what Joe Biden's going to do. And they can try to pressure Kamala all they want, but she's not the president yet. She can't make those kinds of commitments until such time that she is president. And the far left, I agree with you. They're as bad as the far right. They're almost kind of culty, almost kind
They're
of
they're
vicious.
both horrible.
Yeah, they are. I've always said anybody who's fanatical about anything's got some emotional issues. And that's pretty much true. But you heard what she said to those far left people. She shut them down, and she said, if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, just fucking say it. But I'm talking right now. And what she was saying was that, okay, you want to talk some shit to me? Then commit to voting for Donald Trump, which they aren't going to do. They're just trying to leverage this thing, and they'll still vote for Kamala.
It's been, you know what? It took everybody a minute to admit how fabulous that moment was.
Right.
But today I was into all my like never Trump podcasters that I listen to every Friday, which I don't know if you do. It's called Beg to Differ. It's fabulous. They're all like
I'll check it out. No, I haven't.
70 plus that are like, they worked for Nixon, they worked for, you know, and they're all like, the minute he ran, they were like, get out. But they're really lovely, and they're the smartest people. It's the real, I love them. And the one guy said that, what were we talking? See, I'm a senior citizen.
Well, we were talking about these people pushing against Biden and now Kamala, but they aren't ever going to vote for
They said
Trump.
This was Kamala's sister soldier moment, which I thought was really fabulous.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well,
and he said when Clinton had his sister soldier moment, there wasn't a room of 20,000 people in there. You know what I mean? The pressure was even harder on her to control and say no. And then she gave them the evil eye, looked away, and then gave it back. It was like, girl, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, every time Joe went head to head with somebody, whether it be a heckler or whether it be Donald Trump or somebody else, I always worried, is he going to come through? I don't have that worry with Kamala. She knows exactly what the fuck she's doing. She knows how to play this, and she's doing a great job with it. I've said this before in other podcasts with people. I love Tim Walz. I think he was the best choice ever, but he's a pretty big personality, and we got to make sure he doesn't drown out Kamala, because Kamala still got to be the main focus, and there's every reason to focus on her. He should be in there to fill in the spots and just season the entree, if you will, but not be the whole show.
I hear that's why there was like resistance to Josh Shapiro. I don't know if you watched him introducing Kamala in Pennsylvania. I mean, that was such an emotional speech because, again, there was a whisper campaign against him, and all this stuff started coming out. I think we talked about this the night before she made the decision. And when he said, I think his voice was cracking when he said, I am proud of the service I do, and I'm proud of my religion. And like, he didn't have to defend his religion.
No.
The way he did. But I felt like he owed that to his own family. You know what I mean? It was very emotional for me because I just think that the Republican Party they're so evil, and you should see, I'm having so many fights with people on Instagram.
Well,
it's actually fun, you know?
Yeah. I think Josh Shapiro, probably the two things that came into play is why he didn't get picked. I think her chemistry with Tim Walz was better, and I think anybody with Tim Walz is going to have good chemistry. But I also think that because Josh is younger, and this is no shade to him about this, but he's got more ambition. He's looking for bigger things. And I think Tim Walz is happy playing bass on the side, you know? He doesn't.
I have to tell you, I think the pairing of Kamala and Josh was a little too upper middle classy.
Almost corporate, yeah.
Elitist looking, because they're both smart lawyers, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that was not the play. Outside of the fact that I knew that if she lost, because choosing him, and then people would hate Jews that much more, which I don't even can afford at this point. But you know what I mean? It's like, let's minimize the anti-Semitism and keep him out of the loop. But the problem with Josh, and I don't want to go on about this, but so much stuff has come out since, especially within my community. Half of my community was trashing him for distancing himself from thinking that there could never be a two-state solution.
Yeah.
And the fact that he didn't like Bibi, he doesn't, Bibi's gross. So he was like, no, I'm not into Bibi Netanyahu. And
Right.
half the Jews were like, oh, but he's not being true to himself as a Jew. And the other half was like, oh, he's a Jew and he shouldn't be doing this. So it was like, any way you sliced it, the only people that were really being affected by this were Jews.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that pigeonholed themselves into this quagmire. So for whatever reason, if we don't get Pennsylvania, it is going to be because well, you can't win.
Well, you know, I think the whisper campaign against Shapiro, a lot of it was coming from the Republicans. It was the same thing they did with Joe Biden. Get him, diminish him, and then when he steps aside, they're thinking, "Oh, good, Kamala's coming in, or whoever's coming in. Now we'll beat him easy." And then
Yeah,
they got bowled over because she got all this big support. And the same thing with Tim Walz. They thought Shapiro's dangerous because we might lose Pennsylvania.
yeah,
Give it to
right.
Walz, and he's from flyover country. You know who cares? And then he comes in, and he gets even bigger support. So the Republicans keep fucking up. They keep trying to game the system, and when they get done what they want to get done, they get kicked in the ass worse.
Yeah. The only other thing about the right and the whisper campaign is that I went down the rabbit hole and I found that there was a far left Democrat running currently, I forget what position, but something in state government, who was the one that they connected with and told them, and she was the one that put the whisper out about the Me Too thing with the $300,000
Right,
payoff to that woman.
right.
It tracked back to a Democrat, a far left
Wow.
Democrat, who, when I went down the rabbit hole even more, is one of these people who is part of the BDS, kind of separate. She wants to get the money out of Israel to invest in other things. Like, so just, it's the far left anti-Semites, just the hateful, horrible Republicans, and it would be just so delicious if Kamala wins with like margins.
Well,
That's what we
I,
need.
I'm getting that sense right now. You've even got people saying, "Well, it could be a landslide." Everybody's putting out the map how they think it's going to go based on past history. But we're looking at like Arizona, we're looking at Florida, we're looking at Texas, all have the possibility of flipping. I think Florida more than any place, given how badly things are going down there and the fact that the abortion things on the ballot, the marijuana things on the ballot, they're going to bring out a lot of women and they're going to bring out a lot of liberals. And they're living in a state that's not fun to live in anymore. You can't afford insurance. You got nobody to build anything anymore. People in Florida cannot be happy with what they're dealing with at this point. So they're going to want change.
Did you see that DeSantis just gave this big slur against Walls today? You want me to read
Oh,
you what he said?
yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear that.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis shreds Tim Walz for setting up a COVID hotline so neighbors could snitch on each other. The comment came after Walz said people should respect their neighbors and mind their own business. And then Stinky said, he's got this line in the stump speech saying, you know, our neighbors can do what they want, mind your own business. Fine, then why did you set up a snitch hotline for neighbors to report on their neighbors for violating your draconian COVID restrictions? That's not minding your own damn business. That's government overreach. So that's
Yeah.
what DeSantis.
And all I would say is, well, Ron,
And that's
how
your state, right?
yeah, it's my state. And I would just say this to Ron. Well, how's your presidential campaign going? Because Tim's in the motherfucker right now and you are not. You
Right.
can't even run for governor again. You're going to be out of a job in a couple of years or less. And
Well, he's ponying up for a job now, let's face
yeah, yeah.
it.
But, the people are going to go after Tim Walz. And, the one thing I like about Tim Walz and and Kamala is they can be tough as hell. They can be cutting as hell, but they still have this warmth and this joy. They're able to balance that somehow. And I'm not sure how they're able to do that. You're either a tough asshole or you're a warm teddy bear. Well, Tim and Kamala are both.
Right. You don't know. We're talking about something we've never seen.
No.
And I'll tell you something. What's his name? Obama wishes Obama wishes he had this kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think this is bigger than what we saw with
it's
Obama.
definitely bigger. And somebody was saying like arguing about it. I'm like, excuse me, this is like unprecedented. We are living through unprecedented, what's the word?
Precedent.
Unprecedented history.
Right. Well, part of it too is that when they were coming out of George W. Bush, we had the bad economy and things were shitty, but nothing like we've seen for the last 8 years. So part of the reason they're getting this much play and it's this exciting for folks is because we've been in this fucking cave for 8 years. And now there's some light at the end of the tunnel and people are going, fuck yeah, I'll take some joy. I'll take some happiness. I'll take some
Yeah.
hope.
The music that they play while they're, but it's just this whole different, and you know what? It's young people that have entered her campaign. And I'm sure David Plouffe ain't heard because he was like the one that made Obama rock.
Well, and
But
I heard something about their campaign too, is that they're going to try to look at everything on the positive side because Donald Trump, every time he comes
right,
out,
right.
oh, the world's going to end, the economy's going to crash, we're going to be in World War III and all that stuff. And people don't want to hear that. We've spent 8 years in chaos and in darkness. They want to see the light at the end of the tunnel or
He's such a
the,
dick.
well,
Such
he's
a
stupid. I mean, by doing that press thing, his people, I'm going to predict that between now and November, that's not going to be the dumbest thing he's done. He'll do dumber things and more crazy things. He's going to start getting people who work for him quitting because they'll know this shit's going to end. There's no way we can win as long as this fucking clown
I
continues.
mean, how much fun is that debate going to be on the
I'm still not sure it's going to happen because Donald Trump says a lot of things. Whether he'll actually
10th? You think
show
he's
up,
going to back out? That would be great.
well, he wants the Fox one to come before, even when he offered up three, saying, I'll do the one on the 10th, but I want Fox on September 4th. And he wants to
Under
do it
no
because he wants it his way.
circumstances should he's going to back out of all the other ones. She
Right.
does not appear before the 10th, but she knows it. She said that. She's not changing.
No,
She
no.
doesn't care if they don't even have the one on the 10th.
Right. No.
She don't care. I mean, she's got, people are showing images of her like on the stump, kind of bumbling around. You know what I mean? I mean, everyone has moments that are just not stellar.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
they're pushing her out. That's what they're already pushing out. Like this guy's, I think something Rubin, he's another one of these big, straight white man podcasters. And he's like, she's so retarded. Like, you're allowed to use that word if you're a straight white man. Like, fuck you.
I tell you what, if my wife heard somebody say the R word like that,
I
she,
know.
she'd stomp them into a mud hole and walk them dry. That I mean, that's there are certain I swear a lot, but there are certain words I don't say.
No, no, no. We don't say yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. The fact that all these Republicans, wealthy, educated Republicans, are reposting that.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, shame on all of you,
I can't say the R word and I can't say the C word.
or the N word.
Oh, well, certainly not that. Yeah, absolutely not. And these people have no shame at all. I mean, I swear a fucking lot, but there are limits to everything. And when it comes to hurting people's sensibilities, when I say motherfucker, please, I'm not talking about anybody specifically. And if I do talk about somebody specifically, it's Donald Trump, and that's fair game as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, definitely. Well, not only him, plenty of those people.
Yeah, yeah, all of them. Lauren Bolt.
You know who's been fun to watch when he gets like a moment on the news, some of those, those bloviating guests, is Anthony Scaramucci. He's having a
Yeah,
blast. He's having a good old time getting up
yeah,
there.
yeah. He is. I
He
saw
goes, no,
Laura.
no, no. I didn't only work there for 11 days. I worked with him for a year leading up to that. You know what I mean? He's having fun.
I got a kick out of Laura Ingraham. Um, she was she was saying, uh, talking about Tim Walsh. She says, "Well, I know a lot about Minnesota, especially Milwaukee. Well,
Uh,
Milwaukee's in Wisconsin,
she's
dumb
fun.
bitch. It's just it's almost it's going to be interesting to see what News does now, because he is falling off the table now. He's in his steep descent, and as he gets closer and closer to crashing, it's going to be interesting to see if they change their tune or try to adjust their
I
tune a
mean,
little bit.
it's almost like they have a responsibility to keep him propped up till he croaks.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You know
it's
what I mean?
well, you know what? During the press conference, people said he was melting down or he had a breakdown during that press. I didn't see anything different than I've seen in the rallies or anything. He's still just you don't understand what he's saying when he makes a comment about something. It's always a lot of words, but there's nothing ever specific to the question. You know, like he was talking about somebody asked him, well, you're not campaigning at all. What's going on? You got a problem? What? He goes, that's a dumb question. I'm not campaigning because I'm way ahead. Yeah, no, you're not.
The thing that I thought, and I'm compassionate, except in this particular moment, but when I really was sitting back and watching him, it was so pathetic.
Yeah,
You
it
can
was.
tell he was just enjoying like being in this room again, and I'm getting all the attention. Look at me. I'm saying stupid things, and they all think that I don't know that I'm saying stupid things just to make sure that they have something to talk about. They'll talk about me way into tomorrow if I say something even stupider. And it just makes you feel like you're so, it's like I don't feel sorry for him. It's not like when Frankenstein, the monster, finally dies in the
Yeah,
fire. You know what I mean? Where you really feel sorry for him because he did that. He never wanted to be a monster. You know what
right,
I mean? Trump wanted to be this monster.
right.
He
Well,
set out to become a monster. And once he experienced the benefits of being a monster and scaring people, that's why I don't even think a silver bullet can take that pig down.
no, well, I think the dumbest thing he said and the most tone deaf thing he said was somebody asked him about the abortion issue. Yeah, I don't think that's a big issue anymore. I think that's come down a couple notches. I don't think it's going to be any big deal.
Especially in the state that I live in.
Yeah, all the Democrats and all the Republicans wanted me to overturn it and send it back to the states, and that's what we did. It's okay. That's not going to be a big deal. Well, I'll guarantee you, I've been talking about it for 2 years. I think that issue, the abortion issue, is far and away the biggest issue going into the election to get women out, to get men who support women out, to get people who are afraid that a constitutional right was taken away from us, because that's a red flag. I think that's going to be the biggest issue. If there was nothing else going on, that would be enough to get Donald Trump's ass kicked. I
And
don't know
that's
if
what's so great about Kamala's campaign, because she can speak to that
she
as
can.
well as Tim.
Well, yeah, Tim's got the whole experience of having two kids from IVF, and that's a sensitive story, and he's a emotional kind of guy. But I don't know if he's just bullshitting or he really doesn't see it, because I don't think the people around him tell him everything because they're afraid of him losing his shit. Is he just poorly informed, or is he just
Oh, I
trying to
don't think
bullshit
people,
his
I
way
think
through?
people are afraid to tell him the truth.
I
And
think
there's no
so
way.
too.
No, no, no. I think people like Ivanka would occasionally tell him the truth when they were in the White House. And I don't think Jared ever told him really the truth, because he just was waiting for that $2 billion check coming one way or another. He knew that
Right.
that was the pot of gold at the end of that particular rainbow.
Right.
But I I really think I think people are afraid of him. This is the ketchup throwing fucking sick, like fucking,
Well,
pardon all the cursing, but
when he said the abortion thing wasn't going to be a big issue in the election, it reminded me of another time with Donald Trump. It reminded me of the time when he said, "Oh, COVID, that's a hoax. It'll clear up once it warms up. It's not a big deal. We've got this thing handled." And then a million people die. I don't. Sometimes I think it's just him seeing something that's going to hurt him in an election, like COVID would have, or at least he thought it would have, or this situation with abortion, and he's trying to convince himself. He's trying to convince himself, oh, no, it's no big deal. I'm a smart guy. I can figure this out. Abortion's not a big enough issue. Well, he hasn't paid attention to women if he thinks that's not a big issue, because it's a fucking huge issue.
Yeah, which is why I think the Harris campaign should not make the same mistake that the Democrats as a party make. It's why always we're told we're not great messengers,
Right.
is because we try to be too many things to too many different people and
Right.
deliver too many goodies to the party. And then it diffuses it and makes it look like big government, and then it scares the middle off. I
Yeah.
mean, my sister is right down the middle. She would vote for Trump if no matter what. But she's like very pragmatic, She's like a businesswoman, and she just you can't you can't unnecessarily spend because she pays so much in taxes for her company that she's like, I'm not paying that, but that's like a lot of people and not in the $200,000, $400,000 range. She's
Right.
like middle class and maybe upper middle, but still, she started with nothing. She worked her way. Her husband was a basket case, and she had two babies and had to start a business to put food on the table. So she's like, the typical American dream where if you work hard, if you have a good idea and you just stay at it, she's been in business 45 years. You know what
The thing is, when all the stuff was going on yesterday, my wife said, let's see what Fox News is saying about this. I don't want to watch Fox News. So I watch it, and they were bemoaning all the things that Tim Walz support, like free lunches and against fracking and the abortion rights and all that stuff. And they were talking like those were horrible things. And I'm thinking to myself, those aren't horrible things. Those are just decent things that we should be doing. I think I think people have to be careful when we're talking about issues like that to not make that the far left. We're talking about just basic things that our government should be doing for us for the taxes we pay. And just because it does something for the middle class doesn't make it far left.
Right,
It's,
right. No, but they have to thread with a fine needle
yeah,
the next few months because people are going to throw shit at them, and whatever's going to stick is what they're going to stick on. And I just think they should not be all things to all people, which is why I don't think she should just give free reign to the free Palestine crowd. Like, if I'm just saying this because it's not only because it's a sensitive issue, but on a bigger issue, if those encampments and those protests continue into the next school session during September and October, and all
yeah,
that violence and that breaking, closing down highways and you can't get in an airport, that's beyond the Jews. That's
yeah,
like anyone who's taking a plane now is being, inconvenienced.
right.
And I think that you can't just carte blanche. The Islamists, you see what's happening in Europe. They want to come here. They're not into our democracy. They want to destroy the West. I'm
Right.
not a hysteric. You can read up on it from a million other people would point you into that direction. And I think that although today, I don't know if you saw the New York Times did a great piece on her husband, who's in Paris for the end of the Olympics.
Right.
And he went there was in 1982, there was a terrorist attack in Paris
Hmm.
at a Jewish delicatessen, and two Americans were killed and six other
Right.
French Jews were killed there. So they were having like a memoriam for that, and he went and he was saying, the best way to be Jewish in America is to be proud of who you are and don't let anyone stop you from enjoying and having the joy that you get from your own religion. And I just thought that that was a great thing to say at a
Absolutely.
time when she's going to be asked about all these kind of things. And he doesn't want to have to compromise who he is. We'll see. His daughter's a kook, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
It's funny is after having listened to your book and knowing my background and my experiences in my life, Neither one of us have any business running for any fucking office. We get skeletons coming out of our fucking our closet like
Sleep. I can't even imagine people running for office.
no, I don't know why you'd want to do it.
And you know what? It would go. I've said this to you before. It's like at the end of this lovely conversation we're having, I would be like, "Give me a donation." Of course, I'm asking everybody to buy my book, but that's different. That's like hard work, But just like every conversation ends with like, "You give me money." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, it's a little
Well, you better
frustrating.
take care of that cold, man. Is it
I
getting worse in the night?
it does get a little worse at night, but not too bad. I got it, and it's never really kicked into full gear. I've had some pretty bad ones, and I've come on here, and people were complaining, "Don't come on here with that cold." Fuck you! I'll come. It's my show. I'll do whatever the fuck I
It's
want.
not like it's not contagious,
No, I
right?
got it. Well, I got it for my wife. So what am I gonna do? What am I gonna? I tell you what. We'll take a quick break here. I'll get some more water. I'll try to clear my head, and
And
we'll
some
push through the
sinus
next time.
medication.
Yeah, I'm on that right now. So, um, if I had to do a drug test, I probably wouldn't pass. Yeah, I bought generic fucking sinus shit, and I'm trying to check out. I can't check out. Lady comes over. He goes, "You got to show me your ID." I go, "Are you fucking kidding? I got to show you an ID for a basic decongestant? Jesus Christ!"
Yeah, well, that's because there's drugs in it.
Well, yeah, that's why I went to a drugstore.
Wait a second. In Los Angeles, here at one of the, not in all of them, but at this one particular supermarket in my neighborhood,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to buy the Tide Pods without ID.
Wow. Wow.
They're under lock and key. You can't just buy it. You check out, you have all your stuff, and then the checkout lady has to go unlock this huge thing because they're big,
Yeah.
right? It's because there was a moment that people were doing something and drinking it and getting high. So this particular chain does not. You need it. The other one down the block, you can just go get as
Wow.
high as you want. You know what I
Wow.
mean? But like, wow, yeah. But
There's
it's only for Tide. Tide has an ingredient that people want to get.
wow.
Whatever.
That sounds like a desperate straits. If you got a, it reminds me of when I did a. My grandfather was born in 1911. Okay, and when he was 91 years old, I was working in radio. I sat him down. I said, "Grandpa, we're going to do an interview, and this interview is going to be about your life and about your experiences during historic events because he'd lived through the Depression, World War II, Pearl Harbor, and all that stuff. I want to get you talking about that." Because I want my grandkids to be able to hear somebody who's a direct ancestor who actually experienced these times in history. And he told me a story one time during the Depression. He said, back in 29 or so during the Depression, in order to keep the radiators from freezing, they'd put alcohol in the radiators. And the drunks would go crawl under cars, unscrew the radiator thing, and drink the alcohol from the fucking radiators. That's they wish they had Tide Pods.
There's a thing happening in LA. I don't know, it might be the same in Minnesota, but copper wire
Yeah,
is like a hot commodity.
it's
So they're doing
valuable.
some construction in the back part of the properties that I'm on, that they're building. They're turning garages into apartments. So they have to put all these like extra locks because people are going to steal the copper
Oh yeah,
tubing, whatever.
yeah, that happens here too. People will get a bunch of copper pipes or wires, and they'll bring it in, and they'll make some money off it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty. Had I known back in the day, I could have got a whole lot of copper, but um,
No, and they're also stealing the part of those the the thing in the car, the
yeah, uh,
catalytic inverter has
right.
some kind of something going on in there too.
Wow. That seems like a lot more work than I'd care to do to make money. I'd rather
No,
just do
my old neighbors used to have one of those, the Japanese one. I forget the name
yeah.
of the stand. And in 2 months, they had it stolen twice.
Right. Yeah, it's either
Yeah,
the Kia or the
1,600
Hyundai.
bucks a chance. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
You
crazy.
know, gas guzzler, I'm fine.
Yeah, what the hell? What the hell? I just want it there and running when I go out to it. All right, well let's take a quick break and we will be right back. We're back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Abe Gurko is with us, and I don't know that we talked about it on the show, but Abe, you told me that your husband was in Israel, and you were a little concerned about all the conflict and stuff going on there. That he was having a tough time getting back to the country, and we were just talking about it. You said, "Well, it's still a beautiful place, and they're still living a carefully free lifestyle." Um, do the people who live there just kind of used to that possibility, and they just don't let it bother them? Because the way you described what that coast and what that beach area is sounds glorious.
It's glorious. I'm telling you, I went there for a month. I was like, I want to live here. Why am I not living here? Um, so the thing is, they've been conditioned, it's a country where at 18 years old, you're in the military because you always have to be military ready,
Right.
and what comes with that camaraderie, like it's a very warm community because they're they have each other's back. It's part of the structure of the country, you know, and women, men, no difference. You get every bus stop, you see like a group of young soldiers that are just kind of either going home or going to wherever they have to do, and they're all dressed in fatigues, and it's just this real sense. You just feel like it's a different sense of when we see young people here. Here, there, everyone's like, dressed. Yeah, it's a I he sends every day I call worrying because there is this heightened threat, and
Right.
everyone's out on the beach and they're drinking and having, shawarma. There's this they're just used to living their lives and do the best they can a day at a time. I think it wouldn't be so horrible if we had some kind of community service obligation
Yeah.
when you get out of high school.
Yeah.
I think
Ed was
that's
suggesting
part
that
of
too.
2025. Whatever. Don't quote me.
Well, Ed said that in the previous show, and he says that kind of public service doesn't have to necessarily be militarily. It
No.
could be, anything else that's serving the country and serving the
Working
people.
with kids, some kind of vocation help. If you have a vocation, teaching that to kids. I
Right.
mean, there's a million things that could be that are not like, oh my God, I have to do sit-ups. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. I ain't doing sit-ups, that's for sure. I have trouble just sitting up, let alone doing sit-ups. I'm that wouldn't have been for me. So just so we know, um, when we were talking about it originally, not knowing anything about Israel, I'm thinking, oh, this poor guy's hunkered down in a bomb shelter, waiting until he can get a flight home. And you're telling me he's on the beach,
He's
living
having
the good life.
Aperol spritzes on the beach in a bathing suit and with all his friends and huge community. Like they're all like, they're all in it together. They're all in it together. There's that sense of community in Israel that you just don't see in America. It's just
Well,
that I have not seen, and I haven't lived everywhere. And it's almost very small town
okay,
as opposed to me living here in Los Angeles, which is like bigger than friggin' Israel, you know what I mean? One town.
right.
But there is this, you can ask a neighbor, you can get a thing, somebody likes your cigarette, someone will give you a cigarette. Just different.
Well, this impending attack is supposed to come from Iran, not Hamas. I mean, I know they're tied together. Does that change the whole scenario if Iran retaliates for the killing of
If
this?
Iran does it, they're in trouble because what I've been told from just kind of the people that I know that are working at the consulate and stuff is that there was uh, one of the NATO countries went to meet with Iran. This was before this deal that's kind of looming now on the
Right.
table, just from a few days ago, and warned them if you attack any uh, people in Israel, like just in where, regular people are, not military strikes, we're going to take out your entire nuclear thing.
Right.
So that's that. But the other thing that's really annoying that I saw today is that there is let me read it exactly. It's here. This morning in the news, there was Iran is accelerating cyber activity in possible effort to influence US election. So my post that I never ended up putting, but the text was that to accompany that is like, excuse me, we have a $900 billion military budget, and you can't find one bomb and one location. Like I thought you can find everything. Like we could
Right.
get to the moon and you can't find this motherfucking nuclear facility or
Right.
there whatever, and just boom, just so that stops that. It all sounds like way too.
Well, and you mentioned that there is a deal on the table to stop the fighting and a ceasefire and all that sort of stuff. And Kamala has come out and said what everybody wanted Joe Biden to say was, we need a ceasefire right away. Now, she's not in a position to make that happen, but at least she's saying it. And then that shouldn't be a hard thing to say. There's been other deals on the table. Do you think there's any prospect that this is a better chance than the other times they've tried to do this?
I mean, I think there's a lot riding on getting this done from this White House.
Yeah.
I think Joe does not want to leave this seat without that being done.
Right.
And, and also for Kamala, like she can't inherit that war and Ukraine. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
that's just,
It's a
the
lot.
perception. Yeah. So he's got to get that done.
Do you
And
think
getting that done can be, and look, whatever. I just think that we don't know all the machinations and all the bullshit going on. And the other thing I just want to say is that what I think is a misrepresentation of Joe is that everyone's saying, oh, he gave the Iranians $10 billion, and that's why October 7th happened. And Joe is responsible for October 7th. And it's like, fuck you. You think Iran, what is like the largest oil producer in friggin' the Middle East? You don't think they got billions of dollars shoved up fucking caves in their own town? They
Yeah.
don't need the caves in Palestine. Give me a fucking break with the whole money thing.
Yeah.
Like
It's
$1 billion is this one's worth 60 billion, and this one, I would everyone that has more than $10 needs to shut.
I agree. I agree. Do you think Joe, though, he's in an interesting position? He's essentially a lame duck president, but he's still got some power. He's got really nothing to lose. Do you think he's going in and talking to Bibi Netanyahu, the leader of Hamas, and even Iran, and grabbing him by the ear and saying, "Motherfuckers, you better get this thing done, because I'm out of here in January, and it's not going to get pleasant for you." You would hope he'd do that.
He has to get that done before November.
Right. I agree. What happens if they do get the ceasefire by November? How does that affect the election, do you think?
They're only going to get the ceasefire if we get once and for all whatever live. That's only going to happen is if they release whatever dead hostages they have and whatever live hostages they have. And the other thing they have to find out is that who of the girls that are still there have been raped and by now potentially have had a child.
Yeah.
What happens to that child? Because it's almost like that could end up being I made this fantasy up in my head, like that child who is the byproduct of a raped by a Hamas criminal and some innocent young girl, and they leave the child up there who ends up growing up and then finding out his mother is Israeli, and it's just this whole kind of superhero kind of thing. And he ends up taking out all the things. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was me in fantasy land, but it's a good story.
It's a good story. And if that were to happen, you and I'd be dead by then. But but at least we'll leave a good story for the people who
I may have to write it just before, just so I own
this guy was a fucking prophet. How did he know?
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost like Moses in a way, really, in the
Yeah.
abstract.
Well, it's the whole thing is a tragic situation, and I've always tried not to take sides in it because you can't win in that situation. I've always said Hamas is a terrorist organization. Bibi Netanyahu is a piece of shit. The Israeli people and the Palestinian people are nothing but collateral damage. They're good people in their own rights, and I'm only rooting for them. I'm not rooting for the leadership of Israel or Hamas in general.
Yeah, it's unfortunate though that in their charter of how they teach, they're taught since infancy on to hate
Right,
Jews.
right.
That's like almost like there's a generation that has to be kind of like the Germans have to be like what's it called when you have
Program,
to yeah,
deprogrammed, or
yeah, yes. Did you ever see that movie? Fuck, I'm gonna forget. Oh, A Clockwork Orange from the 70s. Did you ever see that movie?
I was pretty young when it came out, so I didn't see it, and I heard it was dirty, so I definitely wanted to see it,
No, no,
but I
no.
don't
It's
think.
definitely not. No, it was violent. So
Okay,
but it's about these street hoodlums in London who are violent and they're always attacking people and raping people and just like with abandon, poor
right,
lower middle class. Anyway, finally he gets caught. The main star gets caught, and his punishment is he has his eyes are propped open and he has to watch all the footage of Nazi Germany and the concentration camps.
wow,
Um, it's like so intense. Anyway, it's a great movie, but whatever.
yeah, I'll have to check that out. It sounds a
It's a
little
really good,
little weird. Not in
definitely weird. But if I could just put in a commercial for my favorite series that I discovered on Netflix, I think I might
okay,
have told you about that the last time. It's called Dairy Girls. It's about this, it takes place during the conflict between England and Ireland when there was like the
right,
IRA was happening. And it's this tiny little town in Ireland. And it's about these 5 high school kids who go to a Christian private school. It is so hilarious. I've never seen anything this funny. I'm watching the series for the second time
wow.
back because it's that funny. Anyway, it's called Dairy Girls, and it's just so well written and so funny, and these characters are like melded together. It's brilliant.
It sounds
But
like
you
a
have to have
Hogan's Heroes type of thing.
it's
It's like,
Hogan's Heroes with high school
oh,
and
okay.
like in a Christian school. It's hilarious. It just yeah. Anyway, so what other catastrophes are we living through?
Well, we're living through all kinds of catastrophes, hurricanes, and all that shit. But in terms of what's going to happen between now and November, and we talk about the honeymoon and whether the honeymoon is going to continue, I think people are so sucked in by the joy and the happiness every time they give a rally and Tim Walz says something funny or Kamala Harris says something tough or strong. I think this wave we're going to be able to ride for the next 3 months. I mean, that's the important thing. Everybody's talking about how much they raised. She raised over $350 million in the last month. I mean, how much money do you need for 3 months for advertising?
I don't know. I mean, it's such a scam, that whole thing. But I definitely want to say, and just to be the counter argument to that, like I think, yeah, whenever they do a rally, that's what's going to happen. And they're going to be very strategic with those. I also feel like everyone is pushing her to do one-on-ones, like 60 minutes, and that's where they're waiting for her to slip. And I think that they need to, I mean, I just want to see her do that too.
Yeah, I do too. I don't worry about it though. It's I saw her yesterday or the day before when she got off the plane. She walked up to the press and she answered, five, six
That
questions.
was cool.
Yeah, it was fine. She didn't seem to be thrown off or uncomfortable about it. I think
No,
she's
but we
smart
have to
enough.
get that 60-minute sit down with what's her name, the blonde. Remember when Trump fucked
Yeah,
that one
yeah. Well,
up?
as much as she has to do that, that's something that Donald Trump is going to have to do between now and November too. He's going to have to get out there, and the fact that he's pretty much locked himself in Mar-a-Lago in his footy pajamas and a shitty diaper and doesn't want to go out and do anything. He went to Montana for this little revenge tour. But, you got Kamala and Tim Walz going to 8 different places in 8 days. And the best he can do is get up out of his bathroom and go into the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago and give this fucked up press conference. It says something about
I
his
don't think
mindset.
that Montana thing wasn't on his schedule. He just ran over there.
Yeah, I think so. Because
He's like running. He's like running. He's on his heels. It's so good. You know what I mean?
well, and I think that's the important thing too. All through the last 8 years, the Democrats have always been on the defense. When Joe Biden did the debate, he was on the defense, and you can't do that with these kinds of people. The only way you stop them is to be on the offense and be stronger. So that's where Tim Walz will be helpful. That's where Kamala Harris will be helpful. They have the ability to be on the offense. I just hope that they can keep that up for the next 3 months to keep them on their heels.
I wouldn't mind. I mean, I like that. What I like about that combination, which I still think is formulating and coagulating and,
Yeah, I agree. I
nurturing
agree.
it. Like, I like that he's like bubbly thing. I like the fact that she's like a
All
little bit
business.
more, yeah. I mean, I think people needs to feel like that's what's gonna happen, you know, because you had like a bumbling idiot with Trump for 4 years. And then you had Joe, who was really fine for a long time, but just think of the difference of what 4 years, outside of what a difference a day makes, which we've
Right.
lived through already
Right.
now.
Right.
But just imagine 4 years ago, he was in his basement.
Right.
He was in his fucking basement.
Yeah.
The only event that they had was that the cars showed up at that fucking that movie drive-in thing, and they had some event in somewhere. And
Yeah.
yikes!
Well,
That's why I keep saying, and I'm invited. Like I was invited again on that podcast with Don Lemon, and then it was the day they were introducing Tim Walz, and I was like, we are not in foreign territory.
no.
We did this. We did this from Joe's basement.
Right.
We are in a whole new category. It's almost like if we can't do this, shame on us. Forget
Yeah.
about it. Forget about her. This is us. This
Right.
is what we the people. It's on us. It's
It
not on
really
her.
is. It really is
She
on
can be,
us.
look, he was a basket case back even since 2016.
True.
His people made it happen.
You know
Whether
what?
you want to go into it was stolen and this and that, the point is he galvanized a whole bunch of kooks.
Yeah. Well, when I look at Kamala and Tim Walz, I think of other teams of similar personalities. Martin and Lewis, you have the serious one, you have the goofy one. You got the Smothers
Right.
brothers, the serious one, the goofy one. It'll be an interesting balance because in this
Rowan
day,
and Martin.
Rowan and Martin, yeah, perfect example.
Jerry Lewis and Dean, what's his face?
Abbott and Costello. Yeah,
Abbott and Costello.
the thing about it is we are, if you look at 2016 or even 2020, it's like we are in a different world, and the media, as much as we'd want them to be journalists, they're not. So they're looking for the entertainment value, and the people who can entertain are the ones that carry the day. That's why Donald Trump was successful. He was an idiot. He was a criminal, but he caught people's attention. So now, if the Democrats can do the same thing, but have a serious, important, and decent message, that's maybe what it's going to take to win the day. I think we're seeing that now that Donald Trump is no longer the media darling. It's Kamala Harris and now Tim Walz. So that's going to take the
Right.
attention off of Donald Trump and maybe people looking at Donald Trump more critically than they ever have before.
Right. I mean, I think in terms of platform and policy, The fact that the abortion issue is so important,
Yeah.
I think second up needs to be something else that is very specific to either mothers or I just think you need to like lock and load. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Don't go right away into, I mean, everyone's waiting to hear her policy on the Middle East.
Right.
I mean, that is a huge thing. She's going to have to thread that needle with a Jewish husband. By the way, her speechwriter is Jewish. Her second in command of her national security is Jewish, whose grandparents survived the Holocaust. So I can't imagine she's going to go out of her way to say, hello, come on in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of other things you're going to have to address because you're going to hear this from the Republicans. She's going to have some stance on the border, what she plans to do with the border, and in terms of the economy. Now, the economy is going pretty well. Didn't you just love how it dropped 1,000 points in the Dow Jones, and everybody said the sky was falling, and here's the start, the Kamala crash, and of course it popped back up afterwards because that's what the fucking stock market does.
There's one guy that said, "Oh my God, the Kamala crash! Oh my God, the stock market hasn't been this low since 2 months ago." You know
Right,
what I
right, right.
mean?
That's the thing, and they love to say how bad it was, and it was up close to 41 when it dropped. Some people said it was a correction, but people have to remember it was just below 30 when Donald Trump left. So in 4 years under Biden, it's increased by 10,000 points, and it's recently broke a number of records. Yeah, it dropped 1,000, but there were bigger drops during Donald Trump's
Yeah, there
era.
was a whole list of bigger
Yeah,
drops. I
but
definitely want to say the other thing that makes me nervous is that the the tech bros that are getting behind Trump
yeah,
versus uh, Wall Street that's getting behind Kamala.
right.
So, but now it's like, which way is the future going? Is it going to be this Bitcoin motherfuckers, or is it going to be the good old standard bearer of Wall Street and investments and that kind of gamble? But this is where another tipping point that we're going to see because people like Elon Musk who have, I don't know.
Well, the
I
tech,
just don't trust this kind of RFK Jr. thing with Joe Rogan. There's
yeah,
something fishy there.
there's something fishy there, but the tech bros brought us JD Vance, so that gives you some indication of what kind of fucking firepower they got.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the tech bros would like to take control of things. I just don't know. They have a lot of money. I just don't know if they have the wherewithal. If JD Vance is going to be the answer. I always get a kick out of it when everybody says, "Oh, that JD Vance, he's going to drag Donald Trump down." Really? Donald Trump's the one with the 34 convictions. Donald Trump's the one who's going to be sentenced. Donald Trump's the one that raped a woman and was found liable for it. I get a kick. Let's blame JD Vance. Now, JD Vance is a fuck up and he's stupid, but that isn't what's going to bring Donald Trump down. Donald Trump will bring Donald Trump down.
What do you think about these allegations from these 10-year-olds and 13-year-olds? Have you heard about this?
About from Trump?
Yeah. What you think that's true?
Yeah, I do. And I have no, put it this way. I've been talking about this for a long time. I only know of the one story. And it's what was her name? Kate Johnson or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's the one 13-year-old girl.
13-year-old girl. I know there is documents. I've seen the documents where she was suing Donald Trump. His co-defendant was Jeffrey Epstein. She was suing him for him raping her. There's the details of what happened there. It sounds a lot like Donald Trump might behave. It did go away after a short period of time. And at the time, I thought, well, maybe he threatened her. And people said, that's crazy. People aren't saying that now. It's not crazy to think that prior to a presidential election that he might have threatened her or tried to pay her off or whatever. But Donald Trump's personality, narcissistic personality, they are incredibly entitled. They think they can do virtually anything. And when you think about it, Donald Trump has got away with everything from the time he's been born. So it's reasonable to think that he will do anything. And he lust after his daughter when she was 13, 14 years old. So it's not hard to imagine that he might get involved in something like that, especially if he thinks he's never going to have to pay a price for it.
I mean, somebody texted me something today, but it was a hectic day. But I'd have to find it. If I find it again, I'll send it to you. But there's like these other cases with like 10-year-old boys and
I've heard that too. I've heard that. I don't know about that. I haven't seen any data on it or any documents on it. That's the problem in this world today. Um,
anything can be manufactured.
well, and you probably see it on TikTok. There will be things on TikTok that make no sense, that aren't true. But people like us, not you and me, but other people that do kind of what we do, they'll see something, they go, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to report on it because I heard it. They don't bother to look at where it came from. Like the
Yeah.
story, I think you and I talked about it. There was this big story out that Beyonce and Taylor Swift were going to have a big fundraiser for Kamala, and it's definitely coming. And they both announced it and all this stuff. And I'm listening to some creator that I kind of trust. And I go, where did you hear that from? You're the first person I heard it from. I would have heard it. It's something that big. I would have heard it from some other place. So I dug around, found nothing on it, avoided it. And of course, later they had to come out and say, yeah, that was a bullshit story from a bullshit source. Well, you could have found that out before you reported it. But it's hard to know any of these stories, whether they're true or not, from both sides of the coin.
Well, that was the whole thing. My Substack from yesterday was that this whole thing about that whisper campaign
Right,
about Josh Shapiro.
right.
I went down the rabbit hole on that, and it turned out, guess who was at the center of that whisper campaign? Take
Oh,
one guess. Take one far wild guess. Who is at the who has the wherewithal, the money, the access, and the power to do something as dastardly as that?
well, the obvious choice would be Elon Musk.
Close. Harlan Crow,
Oh, that's right. I did hear that. You're right.
American Enterprise Institute. He's the chairman, and that's where that rabbit hole went. But you know what? My eye is killing me. I don't know what's going on here.
You got to get your husband back because you're spending way too much time down fucking rabbit holes.
I know my sister's not even returning my calls anymore.
Really? Why? Because you're so giddy?
Nuts. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, but I feel like you can't just take articles, even articles in the New York Times. You have to find out where's the source.
Yeah.
Like this whisper campaign started as an article, then it was like in the Daily Mail, and in the Daily Mail, that's how I found out by going down the rabbit hole that this blonde Democrat that's running, who was part of the BDS movement, was the one that let go of the whole, oh, I sure hope he's not going to be like he won't be my whatever, like something kind of alluding to the thing, and then people went down that rabbit hole and found the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't. It's too much. But
It
we should do this again.
definitely. I'm always up for talking to you, Abe.
Yeah, this
I
is always fun.
I know you're an older guy. You're a little older than I am, so you're probably getting tired now. And
Please, my eye is full.
and you haven't been eating. We know you haven't been eating because people need
Yes,
to buy the
because
fucking
please
book.
buy my book so I can afford a can of tuna.
Right, right. If you buy 2 books, then he can get tuna and
Sardines.
mayo and sardines. Yeah, maybe some crackers, something like
Sardines
that.
are delish, by the way. They're good, very healthy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Abe, I appreciate you coming on and talking.
Thank you for having me.
It's always interesting talking to you, and the folks love hearing from you too. So,
Well, thank
uh,
you, everybody. And if you get the book, let me know and find me through TikTok. And then I follow you back. That's kind of the new plan. This way we have this community.
and if you reach out to me, I'll get you to Abe, but I'm not going to give you his home phone or his address or anything like that because that's just not fucking safe. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of kooks though. I knock wood on that.
I don't have a lot either. I have some now and again that will say some things to me, but I tell you what I do have, and you probably do too. I have some people that are friendly and nice that almost tear me up sometimes when I see it. I mean, for whatever negative shit I get, all the good stuff is far
Oh no, the
beyond
good
that.
thing, the good is beyond. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I that's why I wanted to get this Substack going because who knows when the shoe's gonna drop and TikTok goes away. But there's this other community that I want to kind of pull
Yeah.
people in, kind of
Yeah.
where it's where the love is, you know?
And that's kind of why I did the YouTube thing, because actually YouTube, when it comes to the podcast, I get more people watching the YouTube podcast than go to Spotify and listen to the audio podcast. So things are kind of pushing up on YouTube. But tell people where they can find you. Won't Be Silent. If you aren't watching them on TikTok, you're fucking not on TikTok. You're on some other
Right,
shitty Truth Social thing, because you can't
no,
miss them.
yeah, definitely won't be silent on TikTok. Go to on yeah, just won't be silent.com. And if you go to Substack, it's Abe won't be silent at Substack, dot Substack. But just get me through get me through TikTok and I'll get you whatever you need. But the Substack is a groovy new community and I welcome everyone to join me.
Well, and I will say this too about the DMs. There are a lot of creators. You can DM them all day and nobody responds. But I know you do. And, I get a lot of people sending me videos that I've already seen. I can't answer all those. But if you actually write words to me, I will respond to you. It won't be
Oh,
you.
I love doing that. That's the joy. Just watching these people that just do nothing but these group lives trying to convince Trump supporters not to be Trump. That's like what are you doing in life that you're spending 8 hours on a live trying to convince a kook to not be a kook? I can't.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
It doesn't work. It absolutely
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
work. But
Does not work. That does
well,
not compute.
well, Abe, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the
Night,
time to do
night,
that.
everybody.
Get some rest, and well, they could be
See you
listening to
soon.
this in
I'll
the
see you
morning
in the
too.
ether.
Yeah. For those of you listening, thank you very much, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.